A real disaster has struck the US military in the Middle East. During a missile strike on Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, Iran destroyed a valuable American E-3 Sentry airborne early warning and control aircraft. The United States lost such an aircraft for the first time during combat operations. By the way, such an aircraft costs about $500 million, but that's not all. In addition to this aircraft, other planes were also damaged, including aerial refueling tankers. And here an unpleasant truth for Donald Trump suddenly comes to light. Because it has already been proven that Russia, a few days before the strike, provided Iran with satellite images of this very American airbase in Saudi Arabia, which helped Iran destroy the expensive American aircraft. And this has already been stated directly. This is being said not only in Ukraine, since for some reason Trump does not believe Ukraine, but also by European intelligence agencies. The United States has also started to suffer major reputational damage. Trump's statements about Iran's supposed losses and the already defeated regime in Tehran no longer have any impact on the market. They ignore his tirades there and are preparing for a US ground invasion of Iran. And in the Middle East, they no longer see the US as a reliable ally. My name is Alexei Pechi. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start this episode, I ask you to support the work of this YouTube channel. If you consider the information on this channel important and necessary, you can support this channel financially through donations, subscriptions, or sponsorship on YouTube. To do that, all the links and details are in the description of this video. I will be grateful for any support you can give. And subscribe to my Telegram channel, Peachy News. The link to it is also in the description of this video. So, several Western media outlets, for example Bloomberg and The Telegraph, published photos of a destroyed American plane in the Middle East. It is reported that as a result of Iran's missile strike on a base in Saudi Arabia, several military aircraft were damaged and a valuable E-3 Sentry airborne early warning and control aircraft was destroyed. This is the first known combat loss for this type. The cost of such an aircraft ranges from $300 to $500 million. This aircraft was hit during the attack on Prince Sultan Air Base in recent days. And here, in the, I emphasize, unconfirmed photographs, you can see that the tail section of the aircraft is completely severed, which makes it unfit for flight. The so-called AWACS aircraft, which has a rotating radar disc above the fuselage, allows threats to be detected at a distance and provides guidance for other combat aircraft. It provides a significant advantage, and although the US operates more than 60 of these aircraft and can still make up for losses, the destruction of one of them is still very costly. Interestingly, earlier the magazine Air and Space Forces magazine reported that the aircraft, this Sentry, actually disappeared from radar and something clearly happened to it. But the US Army Central Command decided to ignore it. The inquiry from journalists who asked where the plane was, because this magazine, Air Force magazine, is after all a specialized publication. Since the appearance of this model in the late 1970s, only 3 Sentry planes have been lost in accidents, and even then not in combat conditions. Like the KC-135 Stratotanker, by the way, this plane was created based on the airframe that was also used to build the Boeing 707 passenger aircraft. During the campaign against Iran, the US has not yet lost a single manned aircraft to enemy airfire. However, more than 10 MQ-9 Reaper strike drones have been shot down, which shows that the airspace over Iran still remains dangerous. Despite Donald Trump's assurances that Iran has long since run out of weapons, that its missiles have been destroyed, its air defense is eliminated, and that everything is under control. American bombers, including the B-52 and B-1B, continue to use long-range cruise missiles to carry out safe strikes on targets in Iran. And it is precisely the AWACS aircraft that allow them to do this safely. But I would also note that it was previously reported that as a result of an earlier strike, several KC-135 aircraft on the ground at Prince Sultan Air Base were damaged. And here, Trump is in for an unpleasant surprise. Just 2 days ago, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in response to a journalist's question about whether Russia's support for Iran has increased, first expressed his indignation. But then he was able to explain what is really happening. And his words strongly resemble, of the nonsense of Donald Trump and Stephen Witkoff saying that Russia, of course, helps Iran, but does nothing that would harm American soldiers. Here's a quote from Rubio. Listen, let me explain it this way. Russia isn't doing anything for Iran that would in any way hinder or affect our operation or its effectiveness. That's the best way I can put it. But the Telegraph states it outright today. A few days before the strike, Russia gave Iran satellite images of that very American air base. The very base that Iran struck, destroying expensive American aircraft. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Kremlin satellites photographed Prince Sultan Air Base in Al-Kaj 3 times before the attack, which also injured 12 American servicemen. Zelensky said he is 100% sure that Russian intelligence helped Iranian forces strike American soldiers in the region. Quote, "We know that if they take pictures once, it means they are preparing. If they take pictures a second time, it's like a simulation. The third time means that in 12 days they will definitely carry out an attack." Moscow rejected the accusation of passing information to Tehran, but admitted that it had supplied certain types of military equipment to the regime in Tehran. European intelligence agencies believe that Russia is also preparing to supply Iran with attack drones. But regarding the transfer of intelligence data, the Kremlin gave the most ridiculous, yet at the same time the most brazen excuse. The head of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, Sergei Lavrov, stated that, actually, satellite images of American military bases can be bought at any military surplus store. Oh, you can find them on the internet because they are actually publicly available. He says that the Iranians just downloaded them from the internet, so what do we have to do with it? Next is a quote from Lavrov. "Yes, we supplied certain types of military products to Iran, but we cannot agree with the accusations that we are helping Iran with intelligence data." The head of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation said that pictures of American equipment can be bought by anyone even slightly familiar with military affairs. It is clear that U.S. military bases in the region were used for collecting and transmitting intelligence data as well as information from satellites. The fact that these bases are now being subjected to periodic attacks is a consequence of an adventure that was started without any reason. It's no coincidence that the Americans evacuated most of their military personnel from these bases. This also shows that they knew what was going to happen. They abandoned and let down their Arab allies. Well, it's like at the start of Russia's full-scale war. Let's go back to 2014, when that bold dictator Putin said you could buy pictures of American military equipment at any army surplus store. He was running around shouting that in Donbass it was all militia fighters who got their military equipment and rifles somewhere at army surplus stores. The head of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that those Russian soldiers were also just local people who simply bought Russian uniforms at an army surplus store. Lavrov stated that the photos of American equipment could be bought and that we didn't transfer anything. And it's important to note here that if people don't believe Zelensky, who actually warned that this would happen, then Europe shares the same opinion. In Europe, it is believed that Russia is providing significant assistance to Iran in conducting the war in the Middle East. And this support is much greater than the United States of America is willing to publicly admit. In addition, Europeans claim that Russia's war against Ukraine is closely linked to events in the Middle East due to the cooperation between Iran and Russia. But in the Trump administration, they persistently downplay it. They minimize the significance of the cooperation between Moscow and Tehran. And even after the destruction of the planes, they say, well, yes, the Russians are helping the Iranians, but only insignificantly. Allegedly, this does not affect the course of the military operation in any way. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel financially, you can do so with a donation. How can you do it? All the links are provided. The links and details are in the description of this video, or you can use the QR code on your screen. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.